a very interesting set of reactions when they get to the interview stage. So they get the interview invite and they're obviously super excited because it's great. I mean, the truth is being invited to an MBA interview is a big accomplishment in and of itself, because that generally means you're admissible. There's nothing in your application, in your file, that is making us question your ability to be part of the class. But now we want to get sort of a real feel. We want to talk to you and we want to get a real feel of who you are. So immediately after the excitement, there's always a moment of intimidation. And now what, right? I mean, it's going to be live. What's going to happen? I can't edit myself. I'm intimidated. I get nervous. And the thing is, not unlike the theme that you saw previously, some work getting into it and some preparation is what really, really helps. So you prepare and you also strategize. There's a strategy to how to do the interview well. And this strategy has nothing to do with hacks or shortcuts. It's just something that helps you organize yourself and how you're going to be at your best when the conversation really starts. So you have to start with your story. Just like we talked earlier, what goes into your essays are parts of your story. The same is true of your interview. Parts of your story are going to make it to your interview. And those parts that are going to make it to your interview are the examples. And candidates very often literally agonize over what questions does Harvard ask? What questions does Stanford ask? And the thing is that it actually, it shouldn't be so intimidating because the questions are all about you. It's about who you are. It's about your history. They're not going to ask you something, a question that was in your history book or in your math book. It's going to be about you. So, and you are a subject that you know really well, right? So that should take some of the pressure off. But what the questions in an interview also try to get to the heart of is some broad categories, and these categories are not unlike the other parts of the application. They want to see examples of leadership, initiative, resilience, overcoming adversity, teamwork is huge, and collaboration. And also, I think that especially in recent years, schools want to see a certain level of self-awareness. You can also call it humility, if you wish. They want to admit people who are going to have impact on society and not simply on their own career. So knowing that these are the broad categories, you can think of examples, and you need probably a set of 7 to 8 examples that can fall in these broad categories. And then one little trick, which is completely legitimate, there's nothing shady here, is that you have to think about how to use each of these examples to answer a slightly different question, because the same example can be used to answer a question about leadership or a question about dealing with a very challenging situation, right? So think about how to use the same example and tweak it just a little bit to answer different questions. Because if you do that, then you'll have a set of examples, and these examples are not going to be matched to a very specific question. So then you get stumbled if a question that's different than what you envisioned is being asked. You're going to know, okay, so this is likely a question about leadership, so I'm going to answer with this example, and I'm going to kind of tweak it. I mean, omit some details that I would use if the question was different, and use it this way. So this is really important. And then time management is something that's really, really critical in an interview. And there are 2 parts to it that very often candidates kind of like overlook in the excitement and anxiety sometimes as the interview starts. First of all, you have to take your cues from the interviewer. Most likely, most of the really experienced interviewers will give you a sense ahead of time how long the interview is going to be and what they're trying to get out of it, right? I mean, when I was interviewing candidates at Babson, I would tell them, I'm going to ask you questions for about 30 minutes. And then at the end, we're going to have about 10 minutes for you to ask me questions as well, because I want to make sure we make the most out of this. And then most typically, the first question is going to be something like, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. And this is where candidates very often get in trouble, because they go into these long spiels and they try to cram everything about themselves because they don't want to miss an important part out. But that first question is not about that. And a huge part of that first question is actually judging your ability to time manage yourself and be aware of what the interviewer is asking you. So it's really important to have kind of prepared for that question by thinking, what are the 2 or 3 key points from your background that you want to communicate? And it's really important to get that question right, because if you feel that you have, then the rest of your interview has a chance of going kind of like better and more smoothly, right? Because otherwise, if you feel that you ramble on the first question, you get nervous and it gets difficult to continue on a good path. You can always course correct. And the thing that candidates should know is an interviewer wants you to succeed. No one who's doing interviews wants to sit there and have a really painful interview where the person is flailing and failing, right? So they're going to help you along. So this is kind of what I always like to tell candidates. Their answers need to be, I always say, 3 things: honest, succinct, and vivid. So you'll have to think about it, because you want to be remembered. You want them to get excited about your candidacy. And then the worst thing that a candidate could be is to not really manage their time, way to ramble and to be, I hate to use that word, but to kind of like be boring, if you wish. And I truly believe that everyone has a story that is exciting. So if you prepare, you'll have a better chance of bringing that story to life.